1,000 watts. Maybe they're going to want to mix spectrums. They're probably going double-ended at that point. You'd love to supplement with the sun at that point too. Is a recommendation on my part. Why not, man? It's free energy. It's definitely, our lights produce a better quality light. You're getting a better quality medicine at that point when you're just using our lights. If you supplement with the sun, that's going to downgrade the quality, but upgrade you're spending less money and you're getting more medicine. It's just not as quality. So, I mean, you have to actually make that decision as a grower. That's definitely one of the decisions we make, which is, do you want to go for quantity or quality? It's tough to manage both.
Right.
I would recommend trying to do one first.
Right. And part of it, too, is a lifestyle issue in the sense of the acceptance of your neighbors, the acceptance of the community.
Yeah.
So, I mean, at this point, what you guys offer is a cost-effective, viable alternative for the person who still feels the need to be indoor only for any one of a number of legal or social reasons.
Yeah,
and that's powerful stuff.
It is, man. I really just want to say thank you guys for having me on.
Yeah, absolutely.
This was so much fun.
Yeah.
I just got here 10 minutes ago. They told me to come sit down with you guys. Now I'm warmed up and ready to go sell some stuff.
Go sell some stuff.
What was your guys' names again? Let me plug your show so I get them again.
Well, here, we're happy to give you a flyer because that's what we do here. Right? But we're the Coalition. We're on AM and Talk Radio. Of course, this is Tony Jones. He's with RIFreeRadio.org, providing real programming to the masses. How about that?
Thank you guys very much. It was a pleasure to be here.
All right. Enjoy, buddy.
Thanks, man. Thank you, sir.
Good stuff.
Wow. That was fun. Keep that.
Radio should be.
Salesman to salesman over here. You know, he was describing his schedule, and I was thinking, hey, that sounds a lot like Pat Ford's schedule.
If you're awake, you're working. And listen, I'd like just to point out, in terms of the financial issues, I haven't made my first million yet, Tony Jones, but at this point I can look you in the eyes and say I've only got 1.4 million to go.
You know, it's interesting getting into the medical aspects of things, and you know that I simply endorse the idea of recreational marijuana for folks that are 18 plus, et cetera, but I worked in security for a long time, and one of my many assignments was working at methadone clinics. And
excellent.
It was a great employer. It was a good job. I actually enjoyed it. Enjoyed the people I met through that process. But the fact that your health insurance, of course, if you do the research on methadone and methadone clinics, highly controversial. The fact that health insurance, your Blue Cross and your traditional stuff, will cover methadone treatment, but will not cover cannabis treatment is a slap in the face to anybody that has a medical condition.
Absolutely, particularly given the long-range health consequences of either opioid or heroin replacement treatment. I mean, it's not just, we talked about this yesterday with Jared. We had folks from the Slater Compassion Center. It's just not the financial. It's the long-term health care cost, the psychological toll. It's a complete picture, and yet we stand here as a society that is literally capable of technology that is astonishing even within our lifetimes, and yet we avoid a simple, holistic, natural approach to any one of those issues. And,
doing alternative media, and the other side of alternative media is that exact thing shows you the power of propaganda. This plant has been demonized since kids are a young age, and they go through the Just Say No Club and the DARE program. Just the various propaganda throughout the years demonizing marijuana, going back to the reefer madness, when you were a kid. And
hey, by the way, just as trivia, what would be a fun website? We'll call it dareofficersgonebad.com. How many DARE officers do you know ended up being the local dealer?
Right.
I mean, please. I mean, in fact, the more they drove around neighborhoods, usually in a sketchy version of the police car. Usually they were the guy who had quote-unquote workplace issues. So they put him up as a DARE officer, which pretty much gave him a license to drive around and deal drugs to the kids that were I just said no about an hour ago.
And, chances are, just kind of like your school resource officers, a lot of the police are in that position because there was nothing else that they could do as far as being an active officer. So We'll send you to the school. We'll make you a DARE officer. You'll direct traffic, and those are the quality of folks that they got. And the guidance is showing that that program, they've studied it over 20 years and actually made kids want to do drugs more than preventing it.
In fact, there is several published studies that I just made up that prove a marginal propensity to engage in dealing of drugs by a sworn court officer was directly related to the amount of time spent by said sworn court officer on public access TV touting the Just Say No phenomenon.
And you can
actually, I can prove that.
You can find that study at coalitionradio.us. Address all hate mail to the PO taxpayer under his blog at coalitionradio.us.
Right. But, as I say, we digress.
So I do have some local music queued up for us. Pat's going to bring in more guests. If you're thinking about heading down to the Rhode Island Convention Center, now, I didn't want to mention it yesterday because I wanted to come back today, but, we're about halfway through the day, so if they throw us out, don't forget that the Rhode Island Convention Center is hemorrhaging $25 million a year of your tax money.
So the
power's still on.
So you can say you went to that one event.
You're paying for this whether you want to or not. So P.O.'s going to go out. He's going to get more great guests for us. We do have, I believe I spotted George Nasser from MyNightOutRI.com here today, so we're going to try to get him behind the stick in a little while because we talked about it a bit yesterday, but there really is this convergence of hospitality and cannabis, and on My Night Out Radio, they've been bringing that up to some of their hospitality guests. So if you're thinking about coming down, you still have time. At 2 o'clock today, the politics activism panel, our own pal Jared Moffitt from Regulate Rhode Island, he's going to be part of that. And then at 3 o'clock today, cannabis testing and quality, QA on that. So I hope you'll still stick with us today at rifreeradio.org. We're going to hear some local music now. We're going to hear from Vulgarity. This is a track called Wheel of Fortune. My name is Tony Jones. The PO taxpayer is here. You're listening to RI Free Radio online at rifreeradio.org.
Back in the day, it was made known. Let he without sin be the one that cast the first stone. Now you can judge me based on what you see. It may make you feel better, but it don't make you better than me. The only way to achieve true wealth is through mental, physical, and spiritual health. The only true way to love oneself is through mental, physical, and spiritual health. Can't spend our lives on a wheel of fortune while we're spinning and all we see is a lonely dollar sign, hearts with gold inside. Something better, I believe. Now listen. You can work hard, work your fingers to the bone. But what good is the money when there's no one there to spend it on? And you can push, be at the top of your game. But what good is the top when the loneliness is driving you insane?
Jones here, Rhode Island Free Radio, online at rifreeradio.org. Joined by my old pal, my co-host, the PO taxpayer Pat Ford of the Coalition, online at coalitionradio.us. And we are broadcasting live from the Rhode Island Cannabis Convention, the first ever Rhode Island Cannabis Convention. Of course, you all know if you've listened to me regularly, I am an old veteran of conventions. You know, the PO taxpayer, he does that every day. He travels around. I do it as a treat. But, you know, it's great to be here so far. A lot of great vendors. I see a lot of transactions going on. You know, sometimes you go to the trade shows, you go to the conventions. Not a lot of money changing hands, unfortunately, but we're seeing some good commerce today. We talked about it a little bit yesterday, the idea of people that support legalization, libertarians, all supporting each other's businesses, and I think that's what we're seeing a little bit here today, so it's great to be a part of it. You still have time to come down and, of course, go to rifreeradio.org to tune in. We're going to be with you here today. We got a little bit of a late start, so we'll be with you streaming live until about 3:30 today. Still have time to come on down, but if you can't make it, rifreeradio.org, and, of course, we'll be peppering the broadcast today, as we always do, with some local music. You just heard from Vulgarity, Wheel of Fortune, the name of that one. Pat, I know you're not that well versed with the local music. They're actually a brother-sister duo, Vulgarity is, and just cranking out some great tunes.
So how is the local big band scene?
That Glenn Miller's coming through town.
Any minute. You know, it's an interesting point. You talked about the local economy. You know, all we hear, and a lot of it comes from me, quite frankly, is bad news about the Rhode Island local economy. Yet you've got a burgeoning industry right here in the state that our state government does everything it can do in its own power to block. And that, of course, is everything revolving around cannabis, medical cannabis, personal cannabis, the growth industry. We are a state desperately in need of real economic development. And we've got local publications that have popped up, radio shows surrounding it, manufacturers, retail outlets, folks who are creating a whole new industry in the form of compassion centers. These are employing people. At the same time, they're helping people. So,
and like we'd like to do, talk about industrial hemp. Take the getting high aspect out of it. Take the marijuana aspect out of it. What the state could do with industrial hemp and with all the vacant farmland in the southern part of the state. It could be a huge boom, and people are looking in the other direction.
Right. No, and yet we're about to spend millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars, to move a baseball team from one part of the state to the other. We're going to spend more money to move a casino from one point of the state to the other, and at the same time, this is a native industry that works well at every single level at Rhode Island, whether it be, you know, as an alternative to South County turf farming, as an alternative to the pressure being placed on local farmers, on up through the distribution side, through the retail side, and all the ancillary businesses that can stem from that. It's true economic growth that's organic in nature on every level, and it needs to be encouraged. It needs to be nurtured. It doesn't need to be the subject of hostile activities.
And if some legislatures had their way, there'd be off-track betting sites and slot machines on every street corner under